Oh.
Sorry.
Thank you for hopping on a call with us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I want to just give a brief intro, who you are, what you do.
Okay, my name is Donna Novi, and I own the Pastaria in Los Gatos. It's a family-run restaurant. Make our own pasta, sauces. We opened in 1995 in December. We will be celebrating 25 years this December. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well through this whole process. And I've employed a lot of kids over the years from the high school, including Allison and including Derek.
I started working for the Pastaria in 2004. I was at the Pastaria for about 11 years, I think, which is crazy to think about.
Yes. Well, you did other things in between, and you went back to school. You were at school, and then you'd come home in the summer. So, it wasn't like you were just working at Pastaria only.
You guys were a huge part of why I felt empowered to start my own business. You were kind of there every step of the way.
All about entrepreneurs. So there's nothing more than that entrepreneurial spirit for me, and anybody that's going to do anything, I'm always right there to listen and help and mentor anything I can offer.
I've always appreciated it, but it's been really fun to kind of work at the Pastaria and be part of that family, but then also test my skills along the way. Built their first website. We did t-shirts when I was doing promotional t-shirts and stickers, social media classes. It's just been kind of cool to have you kind of mentor me along the way.
Why the community loves you so much. And I think it goes so much deeper than just your food, right? Anybody can serve good food, but the thing that, we love about Pastaria and that the community loves is that you guys are truly a family-run business. I mean, before I got to work at Pastaria back in 06, 07 time, your husband Paul was running the
That's right.
was running the kitchen back then. I believe you were running the kitchen before then. Yes. And then, a few years later, your son, you sent him to, was it CIA, the cooking school up in Napa. So he got professionally trained, and now he's running the kitchen. I mean, it's very cool to see this family. You're running the entire show, and I think it shows through everything that you guys do.
Well, thank you. Oh, and then also don't forget, at the very end of December, my niece came on board, my sister's daughter.
Right.
Her and Devin went to culinary school at really almost the exact same time. They're 5 months apart, so it's like this amazing match.
I love it. I think it's so cool to be able to say that having it all stay in the family, I think is really meaningful. And I think it shows through everything that you guys do.
And I'm thinking about how many people came back to work at the new Pastaria once, Weston came back, Maddie came back for a little bit. It's the old crew kind of came back into, it was all hands on deck kind of situation.
I mean, I basically have always equated myself to the old woman who lived in the shoe with all the children. Think about how lucky I am. These kids rallied around our new restaurant and supported us, people like you guys and, countless others, Stacy and, everybody that had worked for me over the years, trying to help us, get it going and telling everybody that we moved and just being this amazing mouthpiece, which is something you don't think about when you're doing it. You're just hiring kids. But, I was young and it was my first business, and I didn't realize that I was going to form relationships that were going to go for years and years. Kids that work for me, kids that were in high school when I first opened are now, 40.
Right. Yeah. Well, if you think about it, the funny part is that, we've all had countless jobs throughout our careers and our history. And I don't think I'm really in connection with any of them except for you.
Well, I stayed a long time. So
Right. But I think that means something, it's one of those things where, we all have our bosses that we hated. We all have the bosses that we tolerated. But this was a family. You invited us into your family business. And I think we became kind of a little piece of that.
And then even my family started working there too. My brother worked there. My sister worked there. My stepbrother worked there.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That was everybody. I've had other families like that since then. And I love that. I appreciate that you appreciate that about us. Did want to also mention, without getting kind of teary right now, but it's every person that worked for me in the past was kind of buying gift certificates or checking in on us or calling us. And oh no, I'm not supposed to cry on this thing. But I was so touched. Like, I would say to people, like, every day, I mean, some kind of tears, you know, and they're not like, they weren't the self-pity tears. They were like the I've been touched kind of tears, because so many people, Anthony, Brian, you know, people coming in going, hey, I want to buy a gift certificate, you know, or I wanted to get some takeout. And it's like, you know, that they're trying to be supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And who would know that, you know, these kids, some of them awesome, some of them slightly rotten, they were younger, lovely human adults that, and so caring, and come back to kind of help us. It's like, so I can't even explain that part of the puzzle. But anyway, I want you to talk because I don't want to cry anymore.
Well, I mean, that's you cultivating that
Right.
community for 24 years, you know, there's a reason you're still in business, and there's a reason why we all care so much about what happens with the Pastaria.
Yeah.
Because you're the bomb.
Love it. Thank you. And thank
Well,
you. And if anybody else is watching this, thank all of them too.
going back to how much you care about your customers and, you know, the people that you employ and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to segue that into, you know, your communication with your customers, because right now, you know, walking traffic isn't really a thing, right? And so how would you say that you're sort of keeping in touch and
Yeah.
still giving that, you know, is, I don't want to call it FaceTime because it's not really FaceTime, but how are you getting in front of your customers?
Yeah, right. The first way I did it was, the fastest, quickest way was to have a delivery service. You know, like there's lots of them out there, Uber Eats and DoorDash and all those. If you do that, they actually put a menu online and they deliver. But they also charge 30%. So your nice little $100 order turns out to be $70. It's a lot of money, and that will be a big problem for a lot of restaurants that continue to operate their business that way, unless you cut expenses somewhere else. So we were like, okay, we've got to get this online ordering part that's not attached to a delivery. So they got me up and going. That was the Chow Now. And so now I have a magical online ordering button. And that's just, for us, life-changing. And then coupled with making sure everybody knows that we have it by doing posts on Instagram, Facebook, social media, on our website, all those things. So we put things out on there now, and that's how that's our only voice.
For us, like, this is what we do on a daily basis, so it seems very elementary, but the idea of just like simply putting your specials on your Instagram stories or posting something about it and letting people see it and seeing it before the dinner rush, like, it's so important. And I think some people forget, it's like, look, this is like a direct connection to your customers who love you and decided to follow you. It's like, they want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Give them something to look forward to and give them something to order. I think you guys have proven that this stuff works. It's like, you've spent 25 years building a community of people that love your food, love just you guys in general, love the family business. And then with you guys putting out this different content, whether it's the cookie decorating kits, you know, the Pop-Tarts that you guys are making, like all the great stuff you guys are making, you know, people want that stuff. But if you never put it out there, you never give them the opportunity to buy it.
Well, I also think that because we're all sheltering in place, our only connection to each other is through social media. So when people want to support you, I mean, because that was a huge problem in the beginning for us, was we wanted to support a lot of the businesses in town. I had to do so much work to find the right information. And I'm not faulting the restaurants, because they were busy. Like, just hearing about how many times you had to switch, pivot, move, and keep up with all the regulations. Like, it's changing by the hour, like so much chaos.
Literally every single day was something new. And every day, I didn't mention this, but every day we change our menu online because we were getting shortages, especially in the beginning. All of a sudden we didn't get our eggs, we didn't get our flour, we didn't get our yeast. Flour was the big one because, you know, we're a dough house, like we make our own pasta, pizza dough, and things like that. And so we also had to kind of scale back on some of those things and go, okay, is it worth it to keep the wood-fired oven going right now? Maybe not. So then that sort of has become a bake shop, because I have 2 bakers on my staff. And then they were like, oh, no problem. There's no yeast. We'll make our own. They also are good at the pivot. They were like, well, I've always wanted to make my own natural yeast, my niece told me. And so he's all natural yeast now. They don't feed him anything else. We call him the starter. His name's John Doe. So we have like John Doe back there. He has to eat a couple times a day, and he's growing, and then you separate him off. And that's kind of how this whole thing goes. So
Well, I think it's very interesting, you know, just on one hand, you have, maybe these business owners who have had a great place for walking traffic for 20 years. The business has been successful. And I hate to say that they've been complacent, but it's kind of a word that grasps the idea. Having that online presence, that web presence where people can not only find your menus and order online, but having an active social media, letting people know what's happening in real time. Like, it's something where they may not have known unless we went through something like this.
For those who are hesitant or who have been hesitant, whether it's because they don't think that it was worth their time or they're scared to kind of put themselves out there, I would just love to hear about specifically your experience with social media in direct relation to business, how it's brought in business.
It changed us from one thing, just like in 24 hours, game changer. Never really thinking a lot of people cared that much about what we were doing, because my ego just doesn't really work that way. And so I've tried to explain to my friends, no, people care what you're doing. And this is the proof. So through the pandemic, what I've learned is that it's not just important, but it is 100% necessary. And it is 100% been proven to me as a fact that it works. And this is why I probably sound like a walking billboard for this, but it's just because of my experience. The best thing I can tell you is that just doing what we normally do, going back to the cookie kits that we talked about earlier, I took a picture of them up in the front window over here and posted it. I sat up there and made my post. And then I started walking to the back of the restaurant. By the time I got to where my phone is, I heard one of my workers, Weston, answering the phone, and I hear him going, "Oh yes, we do. I do believe we do have those cookie kits." So we had literally just posted on Instagram. That wasn't even 5 minutes. It finally just hit me. This isn't a joke, and this isn't like just for fun. If people are actually responding that quickly, then they're actually liking what we're putting out there. They want to hear from us, and they actually might like what we have. And if anything else, they know what we have or what we can do in the future. And it's our way, it's our direct line to our people. And right now, that is your direct line to your people. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have it set up, it's a bummer, but you need all the pieces in place. The ease of it all, the being able to put out every day your new menu, because now that's the new way that we communicate. And that's how we show what we have to offer. That's how we show what we're out of. But it's also just keeping in touch and letting people know what you have. Do you remember, did you guys see the Italian wedding cookies?
No, I love those.
Okay. So we were in here working, and one of the girls that's working with me, she smelled them coming out of the oven. So she went back there to see what one of our bakers, Juan, was doing. And she snaps a picture of it. She goes, "Hey, is it okay if I post this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead and post this." I'm not even exaggerating. It sounds like I'm making this up. But within the half hour, somebody called and they were like, "Hey, can I get those Italian wedding cookies just by themselves?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" So we make her a little 6-pack of these cookies. She comes in and she tells me that her guy friend saw these online. They're his favorite. He saw the post, called her and said, "Hey, you're in Los Gatos. Can you pick them up before you come up to see me?" And so she actually did that. That night, we got a couple more people asking for just the Italian wedding cookies. So now they're on the menu as just the Italian wedding cookies. They're also in the box. But that's an example of instant results that I underestimated for the last however many years.
Well, I think that element of consistency too makes it so much easier for your customers to continue to come back because they know that your information is updated as well. So that's like another component is not only had you already done a good job of cultivating that audience and they were ready to kind of like invest in you guys or support you however they could, the fact that you've been so consistent every time around, that makes it easier for people to continue to come back and make those purchases.
Yeah.
Because they can rely on the fact that you're always updating your information. They know that it's safe.
A lot of people did really cool things through this pandemic, like Instagram rolled out an order food button. I don't work for Instagram, but it kind of starting to sound like I do. But they put out a button, so now when you're scrolling through the food like you're talking about, if you can get this button installed if you have an order online system in place. It all kind of comes back to that website and online ordering. And then you can click through and get the thing instead of going to their website now. My first couple of weeks, what we were doing, because we're also supporting our town, so we were ordering takeout at least twice a week as a kitchen. So we would order food, from, North or from Lexington House or Pedro's. And that was to be supportive. Like, we had a little budget that we spent on a couple of restaurants each week. And funny enough, looking back now, what I could see is everybody that's missing pieces, like trying to order on Cinco de Mayo was like impossible, because a lot of the smaller places we wanted to order from, there's nothing. You don't know if they're open, closed. They can't answer the phone because they can't field the calls. They might be open, they might be closed. It was just like, there was no information out there. And I think it goes back to what Allison was saying, just like in her process, looking and realizing it's really frustrating because you can't tell what's out there a lot of times if you're don't have the presence. And so now, this has forced me to clean up my act. And I'm still not there. Apparently I need to do a little bit more.
We know you guys, it's Friday, so I know you guys have a crazy night coming up, I'm sure. We don't want to take up all your time, but we wanted to end with this. So you kind of were just touching on this, but if you could give advice to any business owner, going through this, who's either hesitant to get online or just wants to get through all this and still stay open, what would you say to them?
Don't underestimate it, because if I didn't have that piece of the puzzle in place, we would not be open right now. We would not have paid our rent. I have a big rent, by the way, and we managed to pay it both times. We kept our same 6 to 8 people working the whole thing, getting their regular paycheck. We're not getting wealthy from this. We're just keeping the boat afloat. And the way we're doing that is from our presence. And additionally, I didn't say this before, but if you don't have the presence, it's really hard also for us to even have succeeded doing all the hospital food and the food for Frontline Foods and all these, because that's a partnership and you need to work with them and you need to help raise funds for them through your presence. They need to know what you're doing. If they can't find you online, you're not going to probably get picked as a person to do this because they can't find you to help you. So there's so many more layers to the online thing that we didn't even really talk about but it is really, really important. Make it easy on yourself and get this in place. It's why I'm open right now. It's why I'm not worried. It's why that I think I'm going to get through this. I'm sure it's very daunting for a lot of people, but they just need to do it and they'll see instantly. It's not just a game changer. It's not just a life changer, but it's a matter of survival at this point.
Right.
If you still don't have it in place, you need to, because the next piece of this puzzle is not pretty either.
I think it's important for those, we obviously want everyone to be out there and have a presence. For those who may be overwhelmed by the whole idea, like, I think you guys are great at this, but I think other business owners could just be open to asking for help, whether it's some of your employees, fellow business owners, your neighbors, things like that. Like, people really want to help each other right now and find a way. And so just having the ability to be vulnerable and say, hey, I need someone to help me with this. I think that's another piece that people need to really grab onto, because people do want to help you. They want to support you. So it's important.
Yeah. And help your neighbors,
Right.
I mean, like our restaurant neighbors, I try to help them. I just, I buy something from them and then I post it. And then I repost their posts and they're like, wow, like, how'd you do that? And it's like, well, you just have to figure it out, because that's kind of like, that's part of this whole part of us all working together. That's another piece of it. If you're not online, you can't do that piece.
And especially because you care so much about community and building the community and supporting one another. That's a piece that outside of just like connecting to your customers, connecting with other business owners and being able to support each other, that you wouldn't even consider or think about, Yeah,
I'm just laughing because you guys just make me feel so good about myself that I'm starting to think that, is that like a halo behind me? Like, you see that glow? I'm like,
yeah.
I'm just doing what I do. But thank you for all the compliments and making me feel so good about myself.
Well,
of course, Donna.
We love you so much.
I love you guys too.
Thank you so much for talking to us and sharing your experience. I think it's just really important for other business owners in general, whether they work in the, hospitality industry or not, to understand how other businesses are responding during this time. And, you've been able to pivot so many times. So I just think it's really inspiring, and a lot of people need to hear that story.
Thank you. I hope that they do. And I hope they help themselves out a little bit with this, because you have a lot more power than you think you have.
Well, how can everyone find you, Donna?
You mean the restaurant?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, what's your website? What's your Instagram? What's the address?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So we're at 27 North Santa Cruz Avenue in Los Gatos, California. We still answer the phone at 408-399-3477. Our website is thepastaria.com. The THE pasta, like the word pasta, RIA.com. And our Instagram is it the Pastaria?
It's the Pastaria.
We'll put it in there.
And you know what? I'll spell it out in subtitles, but I'll also put it in like the link information as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Donna. This was awesome.